Hello, hello, Cy. I'm very honored to have you here because I would like to start off by congratulations because I think you did a very great job with the Crowdcast solution. I find it an awesome product, but perhaps you can tell us how you got, in fact, into doing what you're doing today. In fact, how did you roll in this in that Crowdcast solution, and perhaps tell also who you are.
Yeah. I mean, basically, long story short, about a year ago, man, it was only a year ago, I was in a really crappy webinar, and it was just one of the worst experiences of my life. Um, yeah, I was surprised that there wasn't any better solution out there. And I think I was specifically in a GoToWebinar, and I just kind of just spent some time looking around the web to see if there's better ways to, interact with people for webinars or seminars or any sort of educational, broadcast content. Mainly because just like we're doing on Blab, the world is moving, to live streaming and having real-time conversations, and the fact that there wasn't like a platform to actually do that on was surprising to me. And so my background is a designer, and so I was like, well, if I could solve the design problem, then I can try to solve the technology problem. And the thinking was, maybe I can find a way to build an application that lets you do really amazing interactive webinars without actually having to do the technology part for now. And so I spent some time, I built a version of Crowdcast and figured out a way to use Google Hangouts and Livestream and Ustream as like a way to piggyback off of their solution, but create a whole new interactive experience on top of it. And then I started just messaging people, seeing some people on the internet who did events like that, Q&As, webinars and things, and started getting some initial, people starting to use it and liking the product. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. And then a friend of mine, this guy named Ed, reached out to me, and he's basically like, hey, Cy, we want to put together the world's largest virtual conference, and we want to use Crowdcast to do it. And at the time, the biggest event I had was about 200 people. So I was like, okay, well, what are you looking for? Like, how big are you talking? It's like 10,000 people. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of big. Well, I mean, if you wanna cover my bills for the next couple of months, I'm totally down to try to build something so it can scale to that size. That's exactly what happened. I spent a few months. This was last fall. Just heads down, not really doing much except building and scaling the Crowdcast just by myself. And he had his company doing marketing and getting these speakers on board. And then, so the event was for December, so I had about 2 months. In that time, they did way better than they expected. And we ended up getting people like the inventor of Ruby on Rails, the VP of Microsoft, the guy who invented CSS, the guy who invented Bash and all these languages. And we just got like it was called the Hack Summit. We had the leaders of the tech industry signed up to speak, and then our registration count went up to 30,000 people. Okay.
Whoa.
And
you mean you had an audience of 30,000 people in the Crowdcast?
So yeah, that was the idea. And so December comes along, and I'm just like freaking. I'm like freaking out because I'm like, holy crap! Basically, it's one guy doing the technology, building the platform to do this giant conference, and all these speakers have no idea it's just one guy, and like the company, my friend Ed, like he was putting a lot. I mean, he made a big bet on me essentially. But
And when did you, excuse me, when did you had your aha moment so that you said, well, here I am on something really, really huge?
it
Was
was more
that the
like a
conference or
it
was
was
it
more like a
before, after?
uh-oh moment. It was more like an aha. It turned into an aha afterwards. So surprisingly, somehow the code that I wrote managed to hold up, and what we ended up getting was 30,000 people over the course of 3 days. But at our peak, we had about 10,000 people concurrently watching and interacting. And so that event sort of put Crowdcast and everything into more of a public light, and we started seeing other conferences use it for large scale events, um, and it started becoming a platform where people can interact with giant audiences, in real time, uh, answer their questions, poll them, get some interesting analytics behind how the event is going, as well as the type of audience you have. Um, and so since then, we've been sort of building the team and building the product and so on.
What makes the platform so highly engaging, in fact, Cy? If you say, well, you had 10,000 concurrent people in one Crowdcast session,
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine myself what makes it so engaging. What makes it so different from another live streaming platform, in fact?
Yeah. So on a standard, webinar platform, you have essentially just a stream. Usually it's slides of a person's talk or something, and you're just kind of sitting there. You have no form of interaction other than the little text box to ask the host or someone that the host is working with a question. You have no idea who else is in the room watching it with you. You have no idea, if they're even going to answer your question. You actually have no idea what the other people are asking either. It's just a stale, siloed experience. But in Crowdcast, the way that I built it was I wanted people to, first of all, log in from Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, email, like everywhere, and all come into one area. And I wanted everyone to see each other, right? So you can see that it's a shared experience with other people. And I wanted them to interact. So having that chat there where everyone can really quickly just meet each other before, during, and after the event was a huge plus. In fact, just yesterday we had this big event, and after the event was over, people stayed around like for a full hour, just continuously chat and hang out and get to know each other and interact. So that's one component. The other sort of big piece was the Q&A section that I built, where we took the questions out of the chat and put them in its own area to be voted upon, so that you as a host now know exactly what are the most important and relevant questions to be focusing on. And that just, makes everyone happier. The host is happy, the audience is happy. And it also just made the conference really valuable after the event is over. So because, Crowdcast is actually keeping track of when the host is answering the questions, then when the event is over, I don't have to, as a viewer, if I show up late or if I want to rewatch the event, I don't have to watch the whole event. I can just scroll through the questions and see which ones I'm interested in and click on it, and it's going to jump to that moment in the video where you're answering that question.
That's what Niguru says, timestamping the Q&A, that it is really fabulous. So you can really, when somebody's like she now is giving a comment, you could actually mark it, or is it like that I have to visualize it?
Actually, comments are automatically tagged, so it's so all the comments on Crowdcast, if it happened during the live event, you can actually, this is like a secret feature. We'll make it more obvious later, but you can actually click on the timestamp and it jumps to that moment in the video where that comment was being made.
Okay. So that makes a lot of interaction. I heard also about polls. Is that?
Yeah. And so the last component is the third component rather is polls, where as a host, you may just want to know, like, hey, do you guys want me to talk about A, B, or C, or do you like apples or oranges, or whatever question you might think of. Are you enjoying this experience? Anything you can think of, you could quickly just go to poll, and then you could see questions being answered in real time and just being animated. So you can just instantly get a pulse of where the audience is at, if you need to change direction or anything like that.
Okay, so if I see well, you could actually set up the poll in the beginning of the show, and then have the input of the audience, and perhaps see at the end of the show if they reconsider with regarding to the polls. In fact, might be. I'm just
yeah, that's one possibility. Yeah. A lot of the times, people, because of the way it's built, you can actually start interacting with the whole event before it starts. You don't have to wait till the webinar starts, which means you could ask a poll before it starts. So the weeks before your event, people are coming into the event, they're meeting each other, and they're answering your polls. So even before you start your event, you can actually have a context on certain questions.
For what kind of webinars or webcasts do you see the most utilization of the Crowdcast solution? Is it for training purposes or pure sales, or what
people do so many different things with it?
Yeah.
But what we think we shine in is generally more interactive events where you're sort of building a community. So an example would be Patreon has a huge ambassador community, and they want to do these private Crowdcast events with their ambassadors, or if you are a patron, then you have a big following, but you want to do these private interactive sessions with them. That's where it really shines, where you're doing some sort of a community building thing usually. But it's tied into businesses who just want to, have a better, stronger community, right? Usually a lot of what used to be sales webinars have just become informative webinars, essentially. And if Crowdcast can make that really fun and engaging and interactive, then the value for the company goes up. People's trust in the company goes up. Yeah. And then I guess the other part is giant events, like large-scale events. Because of the way we're built, we can handle essentially infinite scale. And so people who have huge followings and need like the ability to talk to thousands of people at the same time, that's one of the powers that they have.
Now, what I also was thinking, in fact, is when you look at the Crowdcasts, I read about the SEO feature.
Right.
Why is it so great to use Crowdcast for? Why is the SEO purpose so great for that product?
Yeah. So essentially, a traditional webinar, as soon as it's over,
yes.
A webcast, as soon as it's over, the content is gone and not available anymore. And usually, the host of the webinar has to download the video and then mail it to you, or email it to you. But the way that we built Crowdcast, because we have all these questions timestamped, we're thinking, why does it have to end when the event ends, right? We should have the content still be preserved and shareable and searchable. So that basically means that every single Crowdcast event goes from live event to long-form content marketing afterwards, right, for free. It means all the questions that were asked can be searchable on Google or shareable individually. So all the work people put in to make that live event really awesome and interactive pays off way after it's over. So that's one of the cool things about it.
So perhaps I can show an example of Crowdcast by putting in the URL of a Crowdcast so that the audience has an impression of what a Crowdcast is like. The first link that I would like to share, in fact, is the Crowdcast where we have in fact embedded a BLAP in the Crowdcast. So I just want to show that. So I put the URL up here. I would say have a look. Don't start the movie. You can always replay afterwards. But just to have an idea of what it is like to see, in fact, an embedded BLAP in a Crowdcast. So the idea is just to showcase what is showcasing, in fact, your Crowdcast products.
So I haven't even seen this before. That's cool.
So I guess it's the first embedded BLAP in Crowdcast.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that viewers might not be aware of, is that Crowdcast is decoupled from video streaming services, which means it can turn any streaming service that has an embed code into a really interactive experience. So you can use it with Blab, you can use it with Ustream, you can use it with Livestream, Twitch, Google Hangouts.
I guess perhaps also Blab, no?
Yeah.
If it is not, it will be upcoming, perhaps. So the second showcase that I would like to show, and I would like to have your comment as well. In fact, what we did is a kind of a mixed presentation, a kind of mashup. So it means you have on the left side the presentation, and on the right, in fact, the video. So again, I will share this. Have a look at it. If you want to see the full broadcast, again, I invite the audience to have a sneak peek and watch the full replay afterwards.
Oh, this is cool. So wait, what kind of embed is this? Is this a slideshow embed, a mixed presentation embed? Let's see.
Yeah, it's Present Me is a solution which enables you, in fact, to combine a presentation with a video.
Yeah.
In fact, what I like is also the fact that you have the same interface, let's say, like that, the one we had with the BLAP, with the recorded BLAP. Mm-hmm. So. Okay, but it's another way of presenting and training, I guess. And I like very much the concept, just to showcase again what is possible with Crowdcast, because I think it's more than live streaming of webinars. What kind of businesses are using this solution? In fact, it is really business to business, or for what's the main use of Crowdcast?
Yeah, I mean, we've enabled both models. We try to focus on B2B. We try to focus on people who have a business and they want to engage with an audience with whatever streaming service they're using, But we do see a lot of people like, for example, the Hangout folks, right? People who have either personal businesses or individuals who just have a big network and they just want to grow that network. So there's usually some end goal, whether it's like they have a business or they have a company, they have a brand of some sort. That's usually the best scenario for Crowdcast.
I'm going to show now the third example, which is, in fact, it's simply a presentation, a Google Slides presentation that we, in fact, have embedded in Crowdcast. So just to give you an idea of what is possible by integrating Google Slides.
Mm. Oh yeah, very cool. Do you know if you can control slides remotely, like an embedded slide?
Yeah, you can actually. There is an embed code which you can generating Google Slides, and then you can in fact embed it straight in Crowdcast. So
can you control which slide the viewers are watching?
No, perhaps with Google Script, but
yeah,
I didn't went that far. But no, you cannot. It's a generic presentation, in fact. Okay, there is some dynamic that you can build in, and you can make objects move, but it doesn't go further than that. Or you can also embed a video. That's also interesting to know, so that you have a broadcast or a YouTube video that you want to embed in the slides. So again, it makes it more interactive and dynamic, I guess, as a versatile solution.
Did you make these slides? Nice.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah. I did it, and I first embedded it on my website, because I'm more a person who works with Google Sites, and it's from there that I had the idea of building a Google slide. And afterwards, I just tried out the iframe, and yeah, it works. So that's fine. So
yeah, it's crazy what people do with it, because you can literally import anything with an iframe. So
as soon as it is an iframe, well, not always, because sometimes it doesn't work out. But well, it's much more than only live streaming, and that makes the platform so rich. Huh? Perhaps the last example that I want to show. These are in fact. Well, for the people who are attending the BLAP, we have a kind of takeaways, and we're offering a PDF and a video to our audience, our BLAP audience, by hosting the Crowdcast, by putting the Crowdcast URL. So I'm going to put it again. So this is really the last one. And this is really, I think, a nice way in order to share in your Crowdcast takeaways. So if you say, well, we have prepared some documentation, presentation, PDF, a document, and we would like to share that to our audience. Well, it's another way of sharing documents. In fact, by simply putting the URL, you can actually prepare a session where you put all the takeaways, where you put everything ready for takeaway. So that people don't leave empty-handed.
Nice. Nice.
I don't know if there's someone in the audience who wants to join. I've seen Cindy, perhaps with question. Perhaps she wants to know more about the platform. The seat is open.
Or so Sheila is here. I think she's done a couple of Crowdcast events.
Yes. And we have QD Brand who just popped in. So yeah. Hello. How are you?
Sheila, if you're in the audience and you want to come on stage, and yeah, I'd love to chat.
I accept. Okay.
I haven't got the right camera up again. Sorry, guys.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. I like obviously the platform on its own to run a live event, whatever it is great. But I really love your sessions in terms of building up a course so that people can walk through the various sessions, and this mix that Johan's put together of different goodies that will keep people's attention, I think is really cool. So,
interesting. Have you been building courses with sessions?
I've been building courses on Udemy. With, I think the one was 33 lectures, which was rather long, and the second one was 23. So I could see, I don't know, what is the limit of your sessions? How many sessions can you do?
There's no limit right now.
Okay, but it would clutter up the page if you had 33, I should think. Huh?
The design would clutter up right now, but we got to first change the design. That's more of our on us. So you can just like click a schedule button or something like that and see all the events you've scheduled.
My one problem with your little session buttons is that they're rather small.
Yeah, they're really tiny.
It's not intuitive to click them.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a kind of a swipe mechanism for tablets that you can swipe from one session to another? It was an idea that I had today. I said, well, if you could actually, with 2 fingers, swipe from one session to another, that would be a great experience on a tablet, I think, and I guess.
Yeah, we were definitely considering more ways of moving the sessions along, you know. But I think the easiest is just to like redesign how the dots things work. So it's no more dots. It's more like a drop down or something that lets you. It's gonna be more
maybe just numbered even, so that one is enticed to click the next one. You know, if you see 1, 2, 3, you might want to click the next one. Yeah.
Especially if people are doing like a multi-day event or a full-day event. A lot of the viewers want to see a schedule and and just see like a full-page schedule of where everything is going to be. And so that would enable us to do that as well.
And what is nice also is that your conversation on the right-hand comment stream sticks with the session, which is really neat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the idea behind that is that every session is like a sort of a stage, you know, in the physical world, and every stage has its own set of questions and seats and panels and all that stuff. So we want to keep things separate. Especially when it comes to the question tagging, it wouldn't make sense when you have,
of course,
multiple events in one session, you know.
Do you have a scoop, or is there something upcoming? Or what are your most recent features that you have brought now?
Yeah.
Just to have an idea.
Well, I think you guys have noticed that you can now sign up through just emails rather than Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus, you know? A lot of business people just really wanted, or just actually even not just business, just a lot of people just wanted their audience to be able to log in through anything. A lot of people are sort of afraid of Twitter and Facebook, especially teachers for some reason. So that's now available. We recently released the invite audience members on stage option. This is basically implemented through Hangouts. So we just saw it used pretty well yesterday, where we had this company called Thrive Market was doing an event with their ambassadors, and they're able to bring them on screen and, you know, and ask them questions and so on. And then there's like a few more things there's so many things that we're working on. But in terms of like immediate future, it's more about like making sure there's better analytics, better data, possibly showing you things like conversions between who registered, how many people showed up on the registration page and how many actually converted over to the real page, and of the real event, how many people showed up for the live event and how many people showed up afterwards, right? Or things like engagement analytics. So it would be really interesting to know that, you know, that Sheila happens to be the most interactive audience member, or like Johan happens to be the one who's asking the best questions based on the votes from the audience, you know.
Is that sentimental analysis, or how do you call it?
That's another thing.
Oh,
sentiment analysis is something we're also working on, where we would be able to give you like a thumbs up or a thumbs down on how your event is performing based on a sentiment analysis of the chat messages. And then later, when the event is over, we can actually overlay a timeline and a graph to literally show you the best and worst moments of your event, just automatically. And we've tested this out, you know, with some of these events, just this is possible, and it's possible. So it's just a matter of building it out and releasing it out to people.
So it's all graphical. You see really the time lapse.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe you made a bad joke and it goes down. You know? You'll be able to iterate on your events essentially. And the yeah, you'll know. But the nice thing would be for the bigger events when there's the chat messages are just going crazy, you just might not have a chance to read out everything, and so you'd get some sort of an indicator, whether it's a thumbs up or green or red. You know what I mean? It would tell you how things are going.
Actually,
we have Karen Marnohi who is joining as well. So I hope it will work out with our settings.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of webinars where the comments went very fast, I found extremely disturbing. It would be quite nice if there's a way to kind of hold them so that you can just read one or two or flag them.
Actually, if you scroll up, it stops the scrolling.
Oh, right.
But if you're fixed to the bottom of the chat, yeah, it's going to move as it comes in.
Yeah.
So that's one trick you could use next time.
Okay.
He's
having a problem.
Yeah, he's got a problem. Well, I will block him because it doesn't help. So, I was also wondering, as a business, when you want to start with Crowdcast, what do you suggest? How can they start in the best way for people who don't have experience with Crowdcast? What do you say then?
Yeah, I mean, we just recommend to go test it out. One thing, there's sort of, I guess, a couple of options. One, we do these bi-weekly Crowdcasts on Crowdcasts, and you can register for them using the See Live demo option on the homepage. And so these are basically, us directly demonstrating the product while using it. But the best thing is really just to create a test event and just try getting a couple of friends in there to see what the experience is like.
It's incredibly easy compared to Hangouts. Unfortunately, I spent a year and a half learning Hangouts before you came.
Hangouts is atrocious. Yeah, I mean, it's like good and bad because it's enabled us to get this far. Because it's allowed us to not have to focus on video technology and just focused on the experience. We wouldn't be able to have pulled off that 30,000 people event, without Hangouts. But the downside is it's Hangouts and the experience is like really crappy, and about 80% of our support probably is around questions around Hangouts. So we're trying to teach people how to do Google stuff better than Google. So it's the nice thing is because it's decoupled, we could plug into anything down the line, but it's mainly been an opportunity.
I'm trying to use it perhaps later with Blab. So I think if you can,
that'd be so interesting. Yeah,
I've seen, in fact, when you take a Blab, it's responsive, and when it goes down to 700 pixels, you will see that the comment stream on the right will go underneath and hide. I had something, if we could adapt the iframe by pixel width and height. Well, it must be possible to put only the portion of the Blab with the frames, so that we can use the commenting of the Crowdcast. In fact,
that would be really interesting. I've never seen a Blab imported to a Crowdcast, but it's possible, I guess.
I did already. I did.
Yeah, I did one as well. It's certainly possible.
That's cool. Yeah, I guess if someone wanted to do like a businessy Blab, that would make sense, But, I could see that in some use cases.
Well, Cy, when you look, in fact, at the Crowdcast with the embedded Blab, what I think is great for Blab and Crowdcast as well, of course, is with Blab you can have really testimonial building, so you can really have the proof visually of someone who's telling that, he's an expert regarding the meta, or a customer could communicate, in fact, that he had a great experience with your product. And if you can combine that into your Crowdcast session, that's great for building up. Let's say it like that. So
yeah, possibly. But yeah, I mean, mainly, we're really focused on the business use case, of companies having the analytics, just really making webinars not suck, and so.
Is there a way to integrate it with Google Analytics, by the way? That's something that comes.
Some people have asked about that. We think there's a simple way, but for the most part, not enough people have really requested that for us to really put development time and focus into it. But it's possible, theoretically, a lot of that we can just provide you directly because we have those stats that you'd want anyway, of like where the refers are coming from and where, how many people are converting and how many people are showing up at which times, So a lot of that data is actually being collected right now, just not being served in the analytics dashboard.
Perhaps also, can you say something about pay?
I'm going to drop out while you do that. So,
sure, Sheila, it's great being here.
Thank you, Sheila. Cy, what I was wondering also, there is also a paid system. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that works?
Right. Yeah, if you want to do, people want to do paid events, so we built that. And so if you wanted to attach a price for attending your Crowdcast events, you can do that. And it just puts the money in your bank account, and that's it.
That's a prompt that you get when you start the event. So if I want to join a paid Crowdcast.
Yeah. So right when you try to register for it, if you haven't joined that event before, then it's going to ask you to pay. And if you already joined, then you're good. But it's one thing to note is that it's event based. So we have events and then sessions. So if you had, let's say, 5 sessions, the event would have the price point on it. So by paying $10, $20 or something like that, I can attend all the sessions.
All right. So it's perhaps sometimes interesting to chain them if you want to split up the payments.
Yeah. And our first use case of that was this conference, and they charged a butt ton of money. I think about $300 a ticket, and they had about 1,000 people or so, maybe. But yeah, it's people who are doing business events, like they're willing to pay for high quality conference content or, conversations or basically it's like a physical conference, but it's all virtual, so there's generally a company budget for that.
Okay. I don't see any questions no more. Well, I propose to end the recording.